Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Not bad. Not bad. I just I was getting ready to go live, and then I saw your stream and my YouTube recommended, and I was like, wait a second, you're reacting to the poly debate. Oh no. Oh.
Yeah, it was a rough one. ZZ will be back in like 5. They're taking a quick break, but
Oh, it's fine.
But like, yeah, it was we listened to that in our kitchen while we were cooking, and it was real hard to cook because we kept pausing every 5 minutes going, what? How is that an argument? Wait, what?
It really wasn't. Like, I was trying so hard. The thing that really got to me was that I was asking questions because I was trying to figure out exactly where she was coming from and like what framework she was using to come to those conclusions. But every time I asked her a question, she saw it as some sort of rhetorical device that I was using in order to destroy her or something. But I was really just trying to understand what she even was talking about.
Yeah, well, it was incomprehensible for one, and two, the problem is like we said on our video is like, in order for you to follow Polly's argument effectively, like, you would need to bite the bullet on so many weird things. Like, again, it seemed like it was really focused on this idea that like, if you're the only people that are allowed to do this kind of content are specifically trans women, but that leaves out like trans femme non-binary people, just non-binary people in general who are femme presenting that day, or femboys. But like, the idea being is like, you're saying those people aren't harmed by the same kind of things that come from transphobia. That doesn't logically follow.
No, it really doesn't. And I'm just kind of baffled too, this idea, like, she literally doubled down on the idea that trans people are the number one experts on the topic of gender nonconformity, when you can easily make an argument that Finn is more gender nonconforming than Polly.
True. Oh god, that's so freaking true. Again, for you to be a cis guy, or at least identified as a cis guy on cam, and you are still using very mask voice, you're very clear you're a guy. Yeah, absolutely, way more gender nonconforming than Polly. Because again, in some ways, I would almost say that like, you can't really make a difference. There's a distinction perhaps, but there's not really a difference between, say, the shit that we get online versus what Finn gets.
Not really. Finn still deals with a lot of homophobia and transphobia online.
And again, like, the other problem with the debate, and again, ZC will be back in a minute, but like, the thing is like, there kept being this appeal to the regular person, and first off, that's a non-starter for me anyway. But the other problem is that like, when you're talking about this idea of like, what's going to appeal to normal people, like, normal people aren't going to get the distinction between a trans woman and a femboy and all this other stuff anyway. Like, they're just going to react. And again, if they assume that Finn is a trans girl and they're not transphobic, what does it matter? Like, again, it's entirely predicated on what the reactions of the average person is going to be, but that could vary greatly depending on the person.
No, a lot of these arguments don't make any sense whatsoever, and I really get the feeling that Polly's thing is going onto debate panels as the token trans person, and that when she's actually confronted with another trans person, and you can't immediately just call someone a transphobe for disagreeing with you, she just has a fucking meltdown. Because I was being very calm. I was really trying to understand where she was coming from, and she was literally just yelling at me. I didn't have video call on, but when I went over her VOD, holy shit, the looks that she was giving me.
Oh no, like, again, I was very surprised that you didn't like just hang up the call at the shut the fuck up. Like, I don't understand. Like, to me at that point, it just, like, the whole conversation started off on a really weird foot, and I don't know why, but then it just kept her escalating. Like, I don't think you changed your like volume like at all through the whole thing. Like, I think you stayed in the same decibel range, and it was like she escalated within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she really did.
Well, and go ahead.
Oh no, just like a lot of these arguments don't make any sense to me. I really hated this idea that people who are not trans have a whole bunch of responsibility to make sure that they're not perpetuating things that could be used to further transphobia, but trans people themselves have absolutely no responsibility for the same thing. And just like calling her out on that, she's like, okay, but when trans people do transphobic tropes, they're doing it because they need to survive. It's like, we all need to survive. Like, are you going to apply this, like, if a trans woman is a drug dealer and they're selling cocaine to a pregnant woman, are you going to be like, look, she needs to do this to survive? Fuck the harm that she's causing. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm sorry she shot this person. It was obviously due to survival. It's a really bad position to take, because the problem is that like it sort of gives us a pass on perpetuating this stuff, and it holds, I think, people who are often ignorant of the larger ramifications without that education or outreach, really ignorant of those ramifications, to a standard they can't know or hold to. And it's a really weird double standard. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to ever expect a regular, like an average everyday cis person to know all the ins and outs of the queer community and all the things they have to do. It's by their nature, they're going to step on a toe. Like, it's just going to happen. So to some degree, there has to be at least some level, as long as they're acting, in good faith and being relatively decent about it, you correct and you move on. But the difference being with like trans people doing this stuff is like, we don't get a pass on this either. There are people on on various platforms that are uncomfortable with some of the like the trap content or like the playing up of the yeah.
Oh, for sure. And there was a bunch of stuff I wasn't even like really aware of until I had that debate. I had more discussions about it. Like, Finn has never called themselves a trap.
Never. I never found it once on their Twitter.
Like, at the very beginning of Finn's career as a content creator, they were doing like trap-like content on Omegle, but they have not done that in years. And it's just like Finn isn't even particularly proud of that. They've apologized for it. Trap is a banned word in their chat. I don't understand where this even comes from.
Well, and I guess like this kind of gets into like what Zena and I were kind of talking about, is that one of the things that sort of stands out to us is that there's kind of like several different levels of like sort of mechanisms kind of happening here. One of them is, I'm just going to call it out for what it is. I genuinely think some trans women just got mad because Finn's prettier. Like I know that's
for sure.
I'm sorry. Like I'll own it. Like I've owned this in VC with our friends. Like the only thing I can hold against Finn is like Finn looks better in some dresses than me. Full stop. Like it's fine. Like
it's a problem, and it's a conversation that I feel like is really hard to have. Mm-hmm. Like I've definitely had my fair share of nasty comments from other trans people, just like completely off the cuff. And I never really knew how to address this. And I see like the same kind of thing gets thrown at Finn, even though Finn isn't really doing anything, just posting selfies and doing their streams.
Yeah, they're just being cute and they're just doing their thing. It's not a problem. Like, and so Gayfesh said in our chat, "Lol, I remember that VC chat." Yeah, you were literally there. Like, it was a thing where like you are. So I think there's this mechanism of people being just, I think, jealous or envious, because there's this perceived idea that Finn gets the benefit of being feminine without any of the blowback, supposedly, for the blowback that a trans woman would get, which again has this very stolen valor feel as well. But like, it's predicated on a falsehood. Like, Finn absolutely gets that blowback. You can see this on Twitter. You can see this in, like you said, like,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. Like in certain ways, it's honestly even harmed Finn's career. Like I see that people in the Minecraft community sometimes treat Finn like weird compared to the other Minecraft creators.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, but that totally makes sense. Well, because the Minecraft community is a lot of like kind of average like late teens, early 20, maybe like 20s to like early 30s kind of guys, where it seems like they probably don't know how to deal with trans folks, let alone like just gender non-conforming folks.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that's a part of it. The other mechanism I think that's playing out under here, and this is what we said in our video about Finn and also the masculine discourse with Vosh, was that...
Wait, what discourse?
So there were two discourses happening simultaneously. There was the Finn one, which was... They're both irritating, but there was the Finn one, which was basically just a giant nothing burger of people being mad at Finn for some reason.
Right.
And then there was the one where Vosh... There was another person on Twitter who had basically made the argument that the reason why men tend to go towards the alt-right is because the left doesn't really do enough to try to bring them over. There's a lot of vitriol and a lot of anger towards men on the left, which is demonstrably true. Now, the way the person phrased it was not great, but Vosh came out and said, like, this is absolutely the case. Like, they literally, like a cult, prey on young men's insecurities. And people...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so the problem is like, people lost their shit on Twitter and literally said something to the effect, like there was one that said like, what was it? Like Vosh is basically saying that women should have to take responsibility for their sexual assaults. Like it was like this really bizarre escalation where it was like, there was a point where like, I think Vosh was actually on the Young Turks over this because this masculine discourse kind of exploded at the same time the Finn thing did. And our point is that all of these things are connected. That the idea is that this idea that men are inherently like essentially predisposed to be like fascistic or right-leaning or whatnot is still predicated on this idea that men are inherently predatory or bad or going to be really are somehow going to do harm. And this is exactly the claims that are being made about Finn. Finn is supposedly engaging in acting like a trans woman without any of the blowback and is somehow doing this for nefarious or grifting reasons. Like it's basically just the same thing. And the problem is that like that same undercurrent of like why we perceive men as in these very, very negative ways is also the shit that trans women get for trans misogyny. And so the idea is that like this all feels like the same exact arguments just from different angles, because it feels like what it is that anytime someone AMAB goes outside of a very predisposed way of being, they are attacked for it automatically. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a strange thing. Like, because a lot of the people who are attacking Finn are a lot more gender conforming. I mean, a lot of them are trans women, and we know like a lot of it is jealousy, even though it feels shitty to say it, but it's also pretty obvious.
Well,
I wish there was. Yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say real quick, like I wish there was a better way to talk about this stuff in regards to like how to bring up jealousy without it being like this, like we're trying to do some sort of own, or that like we're somehow trying to like, it's not, we're not using it as a thought terminating cliche. We're bringing it up as a legitimate, like, no, there seems to be an emotional piece here that isn't getting acknowledged, because it would be inappropriate to say this to a trans woman. Although, to be fair, any trans woman that gets to be of a particular size on Twitter does start getting this kind of shit. Like anyone that's like the 20,000 or higher.
Let me help. Oh yeah, no, like I regularly get really fucking weird things all the time, but.
Well, yeah, no, yours stuff was super publicized too. So like, I can only imagine what you go through. But even just like the average trans woman who's like 20,000 like followers, all of a sudden the trans community gets real interested in trying to like police her behavior. It's really strange.
Oh yeah, no, they decide that if you have any sort of following, you are de facto a leader in the trans community, and you are allowed to do, like, say whatever you want about them. You're allowed to harass them, and it's always just punching up. Even if they, even if they have nothing to do with activism, they have never said, I am an activist or I want to be a leader in any sort of way. They just get thrust into these positions.
Well, and again, I think human beings, and this is just my honest take, as like a therapist and also just like observing human behavior, I legitimately think that like people really want people they can look up to, but because of sort of the sort of postmodern nature of our society, there's a tendency to like immediately try to tear down people that we would like frame as like heroes or people we want to look up to. And I feel like that there's this really sort of toxic undercurrent of like, you saw this with Natalie Wynn. We saw this with you. We saw this with like frick Philosophy Tube. Like there's so many different trans women online who go through this system of which like the moment they become bigger, they get this really big following, and then all of a sudden all the negative critiques come in. And often a lot of these things like seem to come from left field. It's really strange.
Oh God, I know all about it. I think one of the things that with my situation specifically, I came out of it with a lot more compassion to people like ContraPoints, because I realized just how mentally taxing it is dealing with people just constantly trying to cut you down and berate you and convince people that you're a horrible person when you really haven't done anything to deserve it.
No, absolutely. Oh, Zizi's back. Hey, Zizi.
Yeah, hi. Thank you.
But yeah, it is very much this sort of like, I'm not saying we can't hold people accountable when they do things, but I also feel like there's this vitriolic and kind of like reactionary way that the moment somebody steps over a line, or is at least perceived to step over a line, they're attacked. And I think the problem I have with that with a lot of trans women is that it often feels, one, it feels excessive. Because I don't think anybody thinks about... There's a line from one of ContraPoints' videos that says it's like, the snowflake doesn't really believe it's part of the avalanche kind of thing, where like one person on Twitter doesn't mind being a shit because they don't care, but when you're getting hundreds of those things, that really is a problem. And I think the other issue is that with trans women especially, the other big problem is that like, there's no way to do it right. It still feels like we're engaging in misogyny to where like... essentially the argument always comes down to is like you're doing woman wrong somehow. Like it feels like there's no way to actually meet all of these people's wants or needs.
Oh yeah, no, I don't actually think they want anything as much as they would just like cutting people down.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about that last stream, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with when people are participating in some of these discourses, they're practicing these skills to tear people down. They're not practicing, community building. They're not practicing.
Like, uplifting. I know Vosh talked about this. This happened with me for a bit. It's why I don't really engage on Twitter anymore, just because people are fucking weird about me. But there was a period where I think I was trending on Twitter for almost 2 weeks.
Jesus.
It might have been less. I might be remembering it as longer. But it was people debating whether or not I was racist. And the evidence... Yeah, the evidence
I know, we did a video on
racist, it. Yeah, the noodle shit. But it's really obvious how targeted that was when there were thousands of people engaging in that. Being significantly worse. Like, all I ever said is, noodles are tasty. I said 3 fucking words. Over a year ago when I had a really small account.
No, I remember that.
Yeah.
I heard about it later after the fact, and I'm just going, but wait a minute. Every culture has their version of noodles. Of, like, noodles in the noodle form, and then also just pasta dough or dough-type wrapped things, like dumplings, pierogies. Like, they're all the same deal.
Yeah, but whenever I like tried to ask, like, okay, what do you even want? I never got any answers. whenever I tried to have a dialogue with the people who were mad at me, they accused me of being a debate lord, and they didn't want to actually talk to me.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I genuinely think you got the blowback from the Lindsay Ellis shit. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't around for that.
So basically what it was is there was that point when like there was a ton of data coming out showing that Asian Americans were being like attacked via hate crimes in the US. Like they were being specifically targeted because every time Trump opened his damn mouth and said something about China, it was causing problems. And Lindsay Ellis got canceled. This was way back at the beginning of our channel, like 2 years ago. But like Lindsay Ellis got canceled because she had compared Avatar: The Last Airbender to Raya the Last Dragon, which it was. They were just structure-wise the same thing. And what essentially happened is it feels like it has that same vibe where a lot of bad faith individuals and a lot of like white progressives all jumped on this bandwagon immediately assuming that it was racist. And it feels like the same thing with the noodle discourse. They really do feel like the same arguments, because again, there's no way like any particular community is a monolith. I saw people absolutely defending you that were part of, you know, the supposed harmed group, but yet it was treated as this like unforgivable sin that you had said that noodles were tasty. What? Like
it was incredibly targeted because there are so many people who said something about that. It was all just over a fucking year ago, and they brought it back specifically because they wanted to dogpile me. Yeah. But I feel like I kind of went like really off base from this whole poly situation.
Well, but it's the same thing though. Is it the problem is that like, and Zena and I have been talking about this, is that anytime people report something, my general way of engaging with it, and Zena tends to agree with me on this, is that they're pointing at something. So when I hear people use terms like woke scold or tenderqueer, like some people are using these in bad faith, absolutely, but there's some people that aren't. They're trying to look for language to point out this very sort of puritanical progressive part of the community who are progressive in discourse and rhetoric, but very kind of underlying, I want to say authoritarian in their way of engaging, very reactionary. Mm-hmm. And the way I think all these things we're talking about connect is poly falls into that. Poly very much falls into that sort of immediately reacting to the discourse, and immediately these very clear assumptions are made, and then anything that's found goes into the confirmation bias of those assumptions. You had mentioned in your debate with her that like there was the thing about her mod. Like her mod was apparently going off about how Finn wasn't any of these things. Finn just does this, I guess for like just for a job. Except for there's videos of Finn living with like his roommates walking by in femme gear. like
that was something that Finn said when Finn talked to Polly. That like the lash extensions and the nails, those don't come off when the streams are done. That's just how Finn lives day by day. Mm-hmm. Also, it's very weird of Polly to assume that saying that drag queens look like clowns, which is that was wild to me.
Wait a second, I might have missed that one. She said that?
Yeah, she was trying to differentiate cross-dressers from drag queens by saying that drag queens look more like clowns than cis women.
Is that like the idea that like drag queens are entertained? Like,
Polly was going really fast at that point, I think, too.
Well, because when she gets mad, she talks faster.
Yeah, I don't understand how I pissed her off so much, to be honest.
You disagreed. That's what happened.
Yep.
When I posted online on my personal account about trying to get language around this tenderqueer woke scold thing, because it was something that was really bothering me, because I can't assume every person that's pointing out this phenomenon is lying. So the problem is that there's something there. And what ended up happening was I posted this, and Polly was following me at that point. It was right after she started following me right after the loner box debate. And essentially what ended up happening was she just came out swinging, immediately assuming I was like a reactionary, and was essentially just trying to silence trans people. We ended up mutually blocking because she just kept going. even though I was nothing but like kind to her and decent. Like I literally asked the question, like, why are you so aggressive right now?
Yeah, I don't understand either.
Well, and the best I've got is not psychoanalyzing. These are my vibes and the feelings I get, but like, if your logic isn't making sense and your points, you know, and you're not getting the response that you want, you obviously, generally people say things when they think they're right. But
I guess the thing is, oh, I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it was just, Polly's reacting like people are attacking her, right? Like they are doing the bad thing. But I think that is in effect just creating a smoke screen, like an illusion kind of thing of like, oh, well, if I'm reacting this way, I can pretend that like these actions really are being done to me. I really am being treated badly. And so it's got nothing to do with like Poppy or you, just that it makes the narrative of, oh, let me just stay stuck in my narrative right now and not engage with outside points. That's how I would think of it.
Right. I mean, I did find there were apparently some DMs where I haven't seen them, but apparently this whole thing was orchestrated just because she wanted clout, which, you know, I can't blame a girl boss on the grind.
Got to go into those content mines.
Yeah, that's the only reason it never goes into Twitter is because of content mines.
Yeah, it does feel really shitty, particularly though, like weaponizing bigotry against our community for internet clout. It feels like a reverse Blair White.
Oh God, that's so true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. No, that feels very oh, beyond safe words in our chat. This was a clout grab. Behold my shock faced. Yeah, it is very surprised Pikachu. But yeah, it has a very Blair White feel because again, the problem is when we get really upset about, and I mean the trans community, when we get really upset about these incredibly nothing problems, like these are very small, I really do feel like we start to cause burnout with people because when the real issues come up, like we were going to cover later tonight, but we can do it later, is the Arkansas thing where like, hey, are you under 25? Guess what? You don't get to transition. Like, does no one see that as a bigger issue?
Yeah, no, like I'm burnt out on that stuff. I don't even cover it on stream anymore.
Yeah, because it's so hard to engage with. But the problem is like when we see it as the trans community just get incredibly angry at these little tiny things, it feels like I get it on one level because I feel like what's happening is like, well, I'm going to exert power on the thing that
I'm able to.
Well, that is within arm's reach, right?
Yeah.
And so this makes me feel strong. It makes me feel like I can do something. Because against the Arkansas legislature, we can't really do a whole lot. We can protest. We can, be in solidarity with people that live in Arkansas that are trans. But like,
their staffers are going to read the emails that you send them if you go down that route. Like, but a streamer on, on the same platform. But to
attack Finn on Twitter, way easier.
Oh yeah. You can do that all day. You can absolutely get to them. Them in the general.
Yeah,
sense.
No, it sucks. Like Finn actually cried on stream over this, and I've really had to talk to Finn a lot and just be like, Finn, look, you really didn't do anything wrong. And when some trans people have an issue with someone, they will literally find anything they can to attack you. Like no matter what, even if you do like a whole bunch of really good shit, they are still going to be mad and find a way to invalidate the good things that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think Luxander said this to me on Twitter and I agree with it, is that I feel like the people that do this, there is a level where it feels like people taking their trauma and weaponizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we as trans people, yeah, we go through some shit. We legitimately have very real difficulty because there is a sizable portion of people, yes, they are the minority, but sizable portion of people who either one, don't understand us or flatly want us to not exist. Like, I'm not saying there isn't problems, but it feels like
sure.
it feels like people take the things that have been done to them, and rather than think to themselves, do I really want to be engaging with people in this way? It feels good. It feels there's an itch that's scratched by being able to lash out in these ways. It's the same reason why I don't like retributive justice, because retributive justice is just a very clever way of saying revenge. It has this same, like, to scratch an itch, like, they hurt me, so now I've hurt them. In the same way where it's like, again, if you perceive Finn as hurting you, well, then the urge is to lash out and yell at him on Twitter and cause these problems. When Finn hasn't done anything wrong, Finn's just been existing online.
Yeah, no, I
It's
see
funny.
Poppy on this.
There was a parallel between what happened to me and what happened to Finn. Before this happened, Finn was planning on donating $50,000 to some fund to help trans people access healthcare in the UK, which, awesome. But people decided to use this against them. I didn't actually hear the arguments on why it was bad that Finn decided to give tens of thousands of dollars to trans people. But it reminded me a lot of what happened to me the night after I had ended this charity stream that I did. It was this like huge undertaking where I was talking to a guest every 30 minutes for 22 hours straight.
Jesus.
Out of a 24-hour stream. And I raised $205,000 for the campaign for Southern Equality. And after the stream ended, a lot of trans people were mad at me on Twitter.
Why?
Saying that, they were mad at me. They were saying that I do not care about Black trans people because I did not personally donate money to individual trans people's cash apps, and that I'm just supporting the nonprofit industrial complex or something. And
what the fuck?
Yeah,
no, I vaguely remember hearing some of this because I tend to hear the tail end of things, but
yeah. This was the start of the "Is Keffel's racist" discourse because I got really mad. I've been up for over 24 hours. I spent over a week planning this out meticulously, and then I see people doing this discourse, so I just throw up a thread I see on Twitter where people are shitting on me for putting all this work in, and there were some. I think there was one Black trans woman in this thread of 6 people. And it became, I am now dogpiling a Black trans woman because I'm upset at getting shit on for helping the trans community. I just feel there's no way to fucking win.
No, oh gosh. There is one. Well, and this is something, this reminds me of what Jess or Poppy and I were talking about earlier today, by the way. Here's an apple.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Apple.
You're welcome. This comes up a lot where we're talking about with this in terms of ACAB and cops, but same diff I've noted in a lot of scenarios where people don't understand that there is a difference in lens and scale between individuals and and large scale systems. Okay. Yes, there is an issue with nonprofits and all of that stuff. Okay. But that's not an issue that an individual is responsible for. Right,
Keffel solves the the nonprofit industrial complex. One stream done.
Yeah, all just taken care of. All good.
That's the weird thing. That's the weird thing that it comes up a lot in these conversations in the trans community, where people are obviously surrounded by leftists and they take on all of this terminology, but then they don't know how to apply anything. When Finn really wanted an answer, am I transphobic? And Polly decided to say everyone is transphobic because transphobia is a systemic issue, completely tiptoeing around the did I do anything specifically transphobic?
I hate that so much. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's if we're acknowledging it's a systemic issue, how is singling one specific person going to fix it? It's not.
It doesn't do anything. It just makes them feel bad.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. It's like I said, it's the retributive justice as revenge. It makes these people feel better because they actually have power in the situation. But the problem is when they actually have to face their victim, that in this case Finn, they back up. So Polly, instead of saying, did you do a bad or good, backs up into the systemic critique of, well, everyone's transphobic. Well, okay, sure, that's true, but that's more about the systems we perpetuate. That's not what Finn's question was. You're just retreating from actually answering the question of, did Finn do a transphobia? It's a really strange thing.
It was strange because, like, at the end of that conversation, it lasted for more than 2 hours. Absolutely no questions got answered. The entire thing was just bizarre.
Well, and because I think the problem is that it's very easy to yell on Twitter and have a reactionary, statement. It's very easy to lose your shit and, go off at another streamer who's tangentially involved. But to face the person you're actually condemning and to see them not as like this horrible bigoted transphobe, but just like a 23-year-old kid who is basically like trying to figure out gender stuff for themselves and out here playing with gender and doing stuff like that, and genuinely doesn't want to do harm, like you said, like literally crying over this. Now you have to actually deal with the consequences of that, and that's where I think Polly's rhetoric really falls apart. Because if Polly really meant what she said to you, why go soft on Finn? Why not just come out and directly go at him? Well, because to some degree, it was never about Finn.
Yeah.
It's about the simulacrum of him, this fake, this Finn construct in their heads that was bad and a trap and all these other things. But in reality, the actual person wasn't any of those things.
Figures.
A lot of it was just about clicks. Like even the thumbnail that Polly chose for the interview with Finn, it said new besties on it.
I saw that and I was unimpressed.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, I get that everybody's out here trying to do their trying to like out here, go into the content mines and trying to pull stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
I think the goal of a good streamer is to try to find some way to either spin these things positively or to have some way in which there's a lesson to be learned from it here. Our goal is like, that's what we're always trying to do. With the Finn and the Vosh like discourse, the big thing for us was, one, I don't want to demonize every part of masculinity. I don't think that's helpful. Two, Finn is expressing masculinity in a gender nonconforming way. How is that a problem? Why are we demonizing that? Because the problem is there's not a lot of difference between Finn and us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yes, there's the identity.
No, not really.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's not really any difference other than, yeah, Finn doesn't identify that way and Finn's not an HRT. But the thing is that Finn tomorrow could be like, I'm a trans woman, and all of those things could change.
Well, and even on my end, right? Like, I'm transmasc, and people have this idea that certain kinds of trans people will absorb the messages just meant for them. Like, trans women will just absorb the messages about trans femme people, and transmasc people will only absorb the messages about transmasc people. But that really has never been true in my case. Like, I absorb all of the messages. Yeah, I'm transmasc, but am I terrified that, like, some of my friends might be harmed? Absolutely. It's been that way since I was young. Like, the media that I had involved, like, as a teen, a lot of the movies involved trans femmes being harmed. I absorbed all of that messaging. And so even in this case, like, when I see, oh no, you can't, like, express masculinity in this way, no, I gotta be careful that I'm not absorbing that too, because that absolutely affects me. I ask those same questions. So.
I'm really hoping for a day where trans people don't feel like they have to be an activist. Like, not every trans person has to speak for the trans community. Like, okay, this is unironically, I think we've finally made it as a community when the trans community has a Kanye West. As terrible as that would be, we need a trans Kanye West.
Oh God, yeah. Oh jeez. I mean, we've got like a Blair White, I guess. Like,
as not the same.
No, it's not. It's not. I just, yeah.
I mean, if the offensive T slur, if his channel gets big enough and he starts getting very JQ, that might be it.
Wait, who?
Oh, you haven't heard about this. There's a person by the name of Marcus Dibb. He is a trans man.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Yeah, the offensive.
Wait, Marcus Dibb. No, never mind. I was thinking of Goddammit Malcolm, unless. No,
different person. So there's a Blair White, Calvin Guerra-esque trans man from Europe whose name is Marcus Dibb. Their name of the channel is, and it's the whole word spelled out, the offensive T slur, but not T slur, the actual word. Why this is allowed to exist on YouTube as their channel name, I have no idea. I've told people to report it, but like, it's still up, and he's got like 38,000 subs because of course he does.
Damn.
If I had one wish, it'd be more people to be aware of that channel because I don't understand why it's allowed to exist. It's a thing.
So I mean, honestly, that sounds like a great rabbit hole for me to go down. I'm really thankful about this. Speaking of rabbit holes, what's the deal with Lily Orchard?
Okay. With us in general or just as a whole?
Just as a whole. I've seen Lily in my chat a few times. I don't know who Lily is.
So Lily Orchard is a former sort of atheist, anti-feminist person who had a very sharp turn several years ago and came out as trans while doing
My Little Pony and
My Little Pony content. They were doing My Little Pony Friendship is Magic content, working with other content creators that were talking about this. And Lily has a very extensive history. Lily is an indigenous person, trans woman, who has a lot of really strange claims against her. There is a claim from one woman named Brittany who claims that she, before Lily came out, had essentially over DMs created an entire different persona to try to convince this woman to sleep with Lily back when Lily was in mask mode. There's like Skype logs of this. There's also like people in our community that are sort of, I want to call them Lily survivors. I have an adopted son by the name of Patchwork Heart, who's a trans mask individual. And Patchwork Heart was a former content creator who lived with Lily and was kind of, according to their allegations, sort of like financially and emotionally abused by Lily. These keep going on. The person who's doing our new art for our channel, Lizzie Orchard, who is an artist, she's wonderful, is her former partner and fiance who is currently in therapy dealing with the trauma from being with this person. Lily has okay skills at deconstructing media. She's really well known for her video, Steven Universe is garbage and here's why. And basically beyond that, whenever she like wades her way into politics, she's really good at saying progressive things, but being either just very wrong on them or coming out in really strange ways. A couple years back, during the whole canceling of Natalie Wynn, she put out a video basically attacking Natalie, saying Natalie was all the bad things people were saying on Twitter. Vosh covered it on a stream. It's actually how I found Vosh way back in the day, was because Vosh was covering Lily Orchard and I had been a previous fan of hers. The reason we got involved with her was that I had made a video early on in the channel. Zizi was still dealing with a lot of chronic illness stuff, so I was working on my own at that point. And I had done a video basically saying, like, I really like Lily, but I want her, like, she needs to find a new way to engage. And I tried to do this video as friendly and decent as possible. The response I got was that essentially Lily came out swinging, saying that I had tried to diagnose her with, like, narcissistic personality disorder, which I can't do because she's not my client, nor is she in the state of Michigan. I can't diagnose people over distance. That's not how that works.
Yeah, that's really weird. Even, I don't know. I hate YouTube psychologists sort of things where they do that to people.
Yeah,
it's like unethical.
It is unethical, and I really try not to do that stuff because I think it's incredibly, well, it's first off, it's really vague, and second off, it's not really ethical, and it's just not good. But the other problem is that she came out basically saying a bunch of things that I supposedly said but didn't. So we ended up making a video in response to her, which kind of blew up, kind of pointing out all the ways in which she was sort of wrong. And now occasionally we go back ever so often and look at her content because she came out with a video talking about all of her so-called stalkers, which really were 6 people who were previous friends of hers, except for us, who she basically gave pseudonyms to, stole the art from Innuendo Studios, and then proceeded to basically frame everyone as being psychotic or horrible people. The name she collectively gave our channel was Carol. And
it's been peak Zena erasure the entire time.
Yeah, Zena doesn't exist on the channel according to Lily. It's only me. And the other problem is that like she's basically convinced her audience that like I'm sort of like somehow like Dr. Phil. Yeah, she's framed her former alleged abuse victim Lizzie as being abusive herself, although yeah.
Okay, so I see there's like a whole... Are there like any videos about that? This seems like quite...
Oh no, there's a lot dive. Out there.
Yeah, there's lore. There's lore on this. So yeah, I would just look through YouTube, see what you can find.
Send us a message if you have any questions.
I think Princess Opal has a video talking about a story that Lily wrote called Stockholm. This is a thing that Lily often denies she wrote, but it's a story involving My Little Pony that has like a lot of really concerning media in it. Including interactions with minors and, a lot of weird BDSM stuff. I haven't read it, but yeah. Yeah, it's not great. There's our videos, which go over some of the claims she's made against us. The second video we did on her, kind of talking about the her going over and talking about all these people that have offended her. That goes over a lot of the lore from her perspective, which is just all of these people have been mean to her. And
you're talking about the stalker video?
Yeah, the stalker video.
Yeah.
She most recently put out a video talking about how politics shouldn't be a fandom. That one came out swinging against Contra and Vosh, basically calling Vosh an alt-righter and saying that he was basically a white supremacist, and condemned Vosh a lot for the Professor Flowers things. Natalie,
oh god, I gotta admit, like the Professor Flowers stuff, I just completely avoided it. I was like, I don't want any part of this shit. Whoever wins, everyone loses.
Yeah, good point. Don't engage with it. I tried and then I regretted it immediately. But yeah, so basically, long story short is that her entire arguments against, and you can watch these, Natalie Wins was basically the same thing she said in her previous video. She gives a brief 5-second mention of us, showing our channel logo and all that. Making a really snide comment, but then moves on to her next point.
Okay.
So like it's this thing where like there's a lot of like aggressive, passive aggressive behavior. There's a lot of lore here as far as the way she interacts with things.
And a lot of her community and Discord servers kind of run in an authoritarian fashion, as far as we know.
I mean, it's a Discord. I mean, like, I don't want to defend her. I obviously don't know enough about the situation, but it's a Discord server. I am literally Joseph Stalin of the Kethel stream.
Hey, but you know what? I totally get it, because considering the shit you've been through, I would be out here fucking Lenining.
Oh, no, this is true. But there are levels of toxic servers, okay? There are levels. And when we get tons of young people... And I say young because they're not all like children. A lot of them were teens or are in their young 20s. Coming to our server with trauma over this, we got a problem, right? We get a ton of kids who are scared to write things or scared to express themselves, scared to approach hard topics, like all of that. We get those messages a lot. Of kids being scared, like, is it okay if I write this? Is it okay if I write that? And it's something, like, totally benign. That's just not even an issue.
Yeah.
Right? And so we see a ton of that. Unfortunately, we do get to see a lot of the trauma side of things from everyone.
The other side you can see of this, by the way, if you want more data, is Essence of Thought, a YouTuber who does a lot of critique videos against other YouTubers. She's gone against like Xander Hall. She's covered Lexander, Contra, like basically anyone who's even remotely controversial. And she's been doing videos, like 5 of them now, where...
Jeez, well, I'm glad I'm not controversial. I'm a perfect angel.
You are, absolutely. 100% saint. I mean, considering that poly debate, yes. But But yeah, basically covered like 5 videos of this, which she goes over like Lily's allegations and then accuses Lily of sexual harassment over a generalized comment Lily made. They're very much cut from the same cloth in my mind. But you're welcome to check that stuff out. But it is a very deep rabbit hole. I'm warning you ahead of time.
Yeah, if you want to send me a link, that could be interesting to go over today. Especially because Lily has been a regular chatter in my chat for months, and I had no idea who they were.
I'll send them to you over Discord as we're talking.
Awesome. Yeah. Other stuff I have to do today is I have to go over a Turkey Tom video about me, because apparently that's a thing. And I'm like really unfamiliar with like so many of these content creators on the internet. I'm trying to just like not make any assumptions until I find out more about them, because I've learned the hard way it's not good to do that.
Well, yeah. Of course, because everybody comes out swinging.
Yep, that's true.
They go off everyone's secondhand information, they lash out, and it turns into an absolute clusterfuck.
And there's never any gradations of like the level of claims, right? Like, hey, I thought that this one opinion by this person was kind of crappy, right? It's never just that about somebody. It's always like, no, they're this big, massive, awful thing. It's just like, come on, people, please. Like, you could disagree with somebody on certain points and then not like call them ontologically evil, okay?
The whole thing really is just like, I don't know. The best way to put it is that like, I think that we should always go in skeptical whenever we're dealing with any particular content creator, because I think that it's very easy to
Wait, Essence of Truth also took a shot at me in one video?
Oh, Essence of Thought? Yes. If you're a content creator, yes, most likely. Damn,
that's mean.
Yeah, they goes after anyone who's even remotely problematic. I think the only reason we've escaped it is because we're so small. I'll
give you some really good tips. Just piss off a stalking forum to the point where they swat you.
That seems like that's problematic, but I get the logic.
How hard do we have to go for that? Like,
yeah, like what's the over and under on us surviving? Jesus, yeah, I guess I do want to ask about that stuff a little bit. It's just, well, we've got you for a second.
I mean, yeah, go for it.
God, like, I guess I'm asking partially both personally and professionally, but like, how the fuck did you make it through all that shit?
Yeah, right.
Like, I was on the sidelines. I only watched like what was happening as far as like.
No, that stuff looked like fucking hell.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, because even we try and avoided Kiwi farms as much as possible. Like, there's things that we don't do on the channel just because we're like, yeah, about them. That's a problem. So
I feel like you'll have to be more specific.
That's fair. I guess the thing is like the escalation between, all of a sudden you're just doing your normal streaming gig and all of a sudden you've now gotten the entirety of this hate mob against you, and not only like hate mob against you in regards to like they're talking shit, but like actively going out of their way to try to find you. Like that, I can't imagine how terrifying and how fucking awful that had to be.
Yeah, no, it really fucking sucked. They went after my whole family. Like they decided to dox like as much information as they could from my mom, my big brother, my little brother. There were 5 different swatting attempts when I was in Ireland. So much of it was very frustrating too, because I had to deal with like people who I would assume were on my side, spreading lies about the situation or getting really mad about things because they didn't understand what was actually going on. It's really hard to like, I guess that's why I wanted the questions to be more pointed, because like I don't even know how to answer in general, like how I managed all that.
Yeah,
like,
I guess let me ask it this way then. Like, let me see if I can and be more direct. is it, what is the aftermath been of this? Like, as far as harm, as far as like your personal work, your own personal growth, like what has the aftermath been of this? Because I guess I'm just wondering how you come back from this. Like, the fact that you even came back online to me is an utter act of courage. Like,
so my therapist thinks that I got PTSD from this incident, and I'm in the process of getting a formal diagnosis. And the only reason why is because whenever I bring it up, people mock me for that, which is weird, but I just wanted the fucking thing on paper so people would shut the fuck up about it. I try not to talk about like too much about like how hard it's been coming back from all of it, because it's hard to be vulnerable in these situations, especially when there are people who are waiting for me to admit that vulnerability and use it against me. But like I'm constantly like learning like things that set me off and trying to like change how I live so I can continue to do what I do. It took me like 2 months to figure out how to even stream again. And in that time, like my viewership tanked by like 70% because I just like, I could not do a stream without having a panic attack. I think I just like associated it too much with like everything that happened.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, like, considering how intense everything must have been, like the idea that like trying to,
one thing is like that it's hard to figure out the things that do set me off, and it's taken me a while. Like I only just found out a new one. So one of the things that happened to me was my Uber account got hacked. And they but they didn't just hack my Uber account. The Uber accounts belonging to my mom, my big brother, my little brother were all hacked by the same person, so they could use our Uber accounts to figure out our addresses, to dox us. And then they sent us all the same like threatening voicemail about how like we better be careful. By the way, this is not a threat. Have a great day. And that was the thing. That was what made me decide to leave the country, because it was terrifying. And I was really, once they started going after my family, it like upset me a lot, because I realized that anyone who is close or associated with me in any way personally is going to get attacked because of me. I forgot where I was going with this. Like I spent Christmas alone. Like I haven't actually said this before. I spent Christmas alone. And not because I didn't have anyone to spend it with. My family, they were all hanging out, they were drinking. I don't have a car, I can't drive anywhere. And they couldn't pick me up. And I'm terrified now to take a fucking rideshare or a taxi of any kind. And I only just figured this out. And I'm like sort of working through like all of this shit so I can like get back to where I was before it all happened. Sorry, this is kind of heavy, I think.
No, you're totally fine. Trust me, I hear far worse in my day job, but like...
I was gonna say, this is the channel if anywhere, so... But
no, like, the idea that, like, having to spend Christmas alone because an entire, like, like, amenity that exists in modern society has been cut off. Like, it's just, it's... the only word I have to say is just... awful, but that feels very, very small compared to what you're talking about. Like, it just, I don't understand why. I don't know. It's gotta be really fucking hard to not only be dealing with essentially like a fascistic hate mob in the form of Kiwi farms, but then on top of it, also deal with, you know, members of the trans community also attempting to tear you down. Like, I can see why this would cause PTSD, because there's very real threats against your life. And the community that should be the most understanding about this, there are people just basically minimizing this in a way that is repugnant.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, like there was this entire discourse that trans Twitter was doing about me stealing money from people because of a GoFundMe. because 2 months had gone by and I hadn't taken any legal action. And it's like I went through this incredibly traumatic event where I thought I was going to die, and I had to relocate and settle down in a new place and like get my life back in order after everything that happened. And it's fucking insane.
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I don't even know where to go from that, because it's just, I can't imagine to be in that situation where you have to flee a country, and on top of it, Twitter decides to turn what is probably one of the most traumatic moments in your life into discourse.
Yeah, no, the rage I feel bubbling, because God, fuck treating people like that.
And it comes down to the same issue that, like, we've been talking about this whole conversation is that the sort of folks like Polly, or these individuals who are either, you know, doing the clout chasing, or doing the attempt to get clicks, or they're doing the, like, lashing out because of trauma. Like, this is the harm that comes from that is that where the community should have been supporting you unanimously.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, there's a debate over this, which makes no damn sense.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that happened. I really fucking am.
It's okay.
I mean, it's not, but I get it.
But it's like, I have to, you know.
Well, you get to be the one that lives with it, right? Like, no, it does. God, it really sucks.
I mean, I just don't want to bum people out for the most part, you know? I try not to talk about it too much. That was the first time I told anyone, like, I missed Christmas because of this, because I didn't realize how much, like, taking a fucking cab somewhere, like, scares the shit out of me.
I mean, it scared the shit out of me, too. Damn.
Yeah, no, that's super fucking valid. And I'm sorry that happened. That really does suck. You are always welcome with our stuff. We tend to do our holidays online, so...
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I'll be okay. Like, now that I know, I can, you know, figure out how to deal with that, or just, like, let people know ahead of time. It was that I didn't know until it hit me in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and that makes sense, especially because you are coming just after everything happened, right? Like, this is the time when, oh, God, now I am figuring out the triggers that are around happens. And I really hate too when people are like downplaying like that you're having symptoms, like whether or not you have a paper diagnosis. No, you are very clearly having symptoms. Like, that's super valid. And again, I got a therapist next to me, okay? Like, diagnosis matters in some cases, but that's never a good reason to invalidate the things that people have been through.
Yeah, I guess that, you know, like I said, if there's ever anything we can do to help, please let us know. Like, we don't do, like, just to be clear, like, we don't really do the clout thing. Like, this is
no, it's fine. Sorry, I think I just got like a little thrown off. It was hard to talk about that.
No, and we appreciate you being willing to share that. That's a huge thing.
Yeah. No, we do appreciate it. Do you need a minute?
I think I'll be okay, but we should probably wrap up soon.
No, we can wrap up in just a minute.
Yeah.
I do want to say thank you so much for like coming into our chat and being willing to chat with us. That
was a super cool surprise today. Thank you.
Yeah, I just saw on YouTube recommended you were talking about the poly thing, and I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Well, and it's just because it was really hard for us. I guess the kind of wrap up or summary is like, I think it was really hard for us to watch that because you were making basically almost all the arguments that we had made, and it felt like the two of you weren't really engaging with one another. There wasn't really a conversation. And
yeah, no, because I rejected her initial premise, it just felt like she was trying to use a battering ram in order to get me to accept the premise, and she just kept rephrasing it over and over again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's super pointed that one out at the start. I was like, this. So did Poppy. The initials, everything just didn't function.
Yeah, it was really hard to watch because it I don't know, it just seemed really like, I was really impressed with how calm you stayed. That's how I'll say that. Like, I don't know if I could have.
True.
But anyway, again, thank you so much for talking with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we should definitely do it again sometime. I'm sure some wacky shit will come up in the future.
There's always wacky shit. The content mines are always rich with topics. So,
well, and you can always come on for chill topics too. If there's just like,
oh, for sure.
Hey, I got this thing that I'm curious about. By all means, like, we don't have to just wait for
shitty topics,
discourse topics. Like, now we'll just talk. Our community is a fan, so. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, you have yourself a great night, and best of luck to you, and also a big, lots of love to your chat and everyone there, and thank you to all the people who have come and subscribed. We really appreciate it, and yeah, thank you so much again.
Yeah. Take care of you.
You too.
All right. Talk to you later, Keffels.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider donating to us. You can support us on our website, transgirltherapist.org. You can also help us on our Patreon, link below, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching.